Hey, welcome to TokuTalkers. Today we're talking GoZyuger episode 12, Demon, Roar. At least that's what the wiki
Hmm.
tells me. I'm one of your hosts, Buster. With me, of course, is my co-host, Wyatt. And this
Mm.
is the end of the Gao Ranger two-parter, Gao
Mm.
Red, like, whatever you call it, I don't know, Universe
Yeah,
Warrior Gao
yeah.
Red two-parter. And I'd say like we were kind of lukewarm on the last episode because it was a lot of setup, but I say this episode
Hmm.
did a lot of good payoff to make that last episode like even better in retrospect.
Yeah, I think just like many of these shows, usually the part 1 is like mostly just set up and then it's just better in retrospect after you've seen the part 2. Like even with Kamen Rider, which does employs that with every one of its episodes, it's usually like, oh, the second part is the one where you're like, okay, this story is complete. This is a good story, yay or nay. Uh, it's kind of hard to find a thing where like the first story stands on its own and then you can kind of enjoy it for what it is. But yeah, this one we talked about it a bunch last week. I'm a big fan of Gao Ranger. I'm a big fan of Roki, the evil wolf Oni. And this is full of references to that, which is great. And also a bunch of sadness
Yeah.
and other stuff.
Well, was Gao Ranger this sad with like the Oki stuff?
Um, I don't think he had as tragic like he was more of a like existentially tragic figure than he was like a directly tragic, like he didn't have like a tragic like a loved one dying or something like
Yeah.
that. Um, in this case, I do want to say that I do think it's fun because Gao Ranger is a show that's about like protecting the earth and that kind of like the bond with nature and all that. That I had just put together now that the guy's name is Gaia and that and his fiance's name is Runa or Luna. So literally the earth and the moon. So there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I kind of like it was a bit like we talked about it last week, but like it's a bit like a bit strange how like this is like one of the first two parters because usually it's like we got a balance in previous episodes. Either the Universe Warriors were a gag or they were like a side character or like a rival
Yeah.
to like the main character. This is like a story focused on them. This is like a more like
Mm.
what you would expect from like when you hear, all right, this show is gonna have a bunch of Red Rangers like in as guest stars like in like
Yeah, it's
alternate universe.
interesting.
Yeah, so it's like a very different way of approaching it, but I still think it worked like for this for these episodes. Like even if it is very different than what we saw before, um,
Mm.
like just giving you like a nice little like one-off story that like pays tribute to the past, but still like does some cool shit. And apparently, like the when they like speaking of paying tribute, apparently when the Gao King showed up, they just straight up be like, "Hey, here's the text we used for the Max and Gao Ranger to introduce
Hmm.
Gao King," which was pretty cool. It's also like we like because I remember like Gao King and like the Wild Force footage I watched was a lot of CG, so it was a bit surreal seeing like
Yes.
him being like a practical effect, but it was still really
Yes.
cool.
It's very rare in Power Ranger for them to use like maybe when a mecha is introduced, there will be like a suit element, but for the most part it's like very reliant on CG. It was like the first like Time Ranger used it a bit, but this was the first to really go completely ham with the CGI. And Gao King is just a cool robot. I remember having the Wild Force Megazord as a kid and thinking it was super cool. And then I think I had like a ton of the Wild Force stuff as a kid just because that's one of the ones that I was like at that perfect age for
Yeah.
when growing up. Because I was like, I think my very first Power Ranger show that I remember, here we go on a tangent real quick, was Lost Galaxy, and then like that ending, and then like Lightspeed Rescue, then Time Force, and then Gal Ranger or whatever, Wild Force. And like that one, like yeah, it was just like 7 or 8 years old. That was at the time. It was the greatest time of my life. Getting all the, getting this green gorilla and getting the, all that good stuff. The big giraffe toy going on. A lot of good stuff with Scout Ranger and Wild Force. You know, never. I think that was kind of like maybe even the last time I was like super into getting Power Rangers toys because I don't remember getting all of the ones for like Dino Thunder or Ninja Storm, and then like SPD was the last one that I got toys for like my birthday or whatever. Anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed that little toy tangent.
I mean, hey, Sentai all about selling toys, so it makes
Absolutely.
sense. Yeah, and we also we got like a lot more Sakamoto isms in this episode where it's like, oh, like they fight the mooks while they do the little tension dance. Like that's a big you could tell he had a lot of fun directing this episode of just like
Yeah.
showing like everyone's unique personality while they fight off the mooks and do the tension dance. That just good shit, good shit. It's a classic. It feels like a very classical Sentai episode compared to like what we've been getting for the last 10 weeks, which is like a bit like it's both a boon and a weakness, because on the other hand it's like, okay, I'm really enjoying like it being different, but on the other hand it is nice to like shake it up. You don't just want the same thing over and over, and it's still like a good story for what it is. So
yeah, I wish that they could do or maybe they will, but I hope in the future they can find a good balance between doing the like no one battles and the like Universe Warrior stuff, because I do want more stories, whether they be two-parters or just a single story about whatever Universe Warrior, that's sort of like lightly referencing the show that they're from without being like a Gokaiger style like complete tribute episode to like the exact character or the series or anything. And next week they're doing Car Ranger, which is great. I love Car Ranger. And but I don't want to lose the like battles, like the contests and stuff with the no ones. I don't want that to be a weird like, oh, this was in the beginning of the series and then we shifted away from that and then the show became something
like
different.
I'm a bit, cause I mean, granted, we did get like a competition like last episode, and this was like technically part of that arc. So it's like this was just like I can excuse it for this one, but it's like I hope we can still keep those competitions coming.
Yeah, especially because the one last week was kind of comedically half-assed.
Yeah,
I was like fine with it in the sense that it was funny, but they intentionally kind of made it like, whatever, we don't care about this, we're just gonna beat the crap out of you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do hope that they can find like a nice balance of that rather than just like throwing the baby out with the bathwater completely.
Yeah. Wait, who is writing the next our arc? Let me check. I knew he's back. Okay, because remember this was like the first two-parter to not be written by Akihiko Inoue, and she's back for next week's arc. So,
cool.
All right, yeah. But like Tatsuto Higuchi, who like I mentioned last week, he got his start on Boom Boonger with Sentai. He did a good job of this little like mini story of like Gao Red and his dead fiance, which like, oh, that kind of got me in the feels. I'm always a sucker for like songs that are diegetically played during battles in Sentai or just like any show, and like that this did a great job of like putting that diegetic song to emphasize an emotional moment. Yeah, I think that's anything else you guys say about this episode.
Well, it's previous episode kind of focused on Rikuo. This one focused a little bit more on him. He just continues to be the best character, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
In the show. I mean, I guess fortunately because it's good, but unfortunately because like you kind of want all the characters in the show to be like of equal quality, and not to say that they're all bad, but like especially ones like the Yellow Ranger, whose name I always forget.
Apparently he's getting a focus episode next week with Universe Warrior Car Red, so we'll see.
Be cool. That will be super cool. I'd love to see it. Yeah, so it's not like when I call a character weaker than one, that's not me saying like I dislike this character, I don't want to see anymore. It's because like, oh, there haven't been a ton of focus on this character yet. We kind of,
Yeah,
And
just their basis. Okay. Yeah, you mentioned like this. Like I watched Ninja recently, and one of my big problems with that show is that each character is a good basis, but a lot of them never go beyond their basis.
right.
And we were almost. I feel like next episode is gonna help that with Ryuki, where it's like we're gonna learn more about him, or like at least get more of his personality like intact. But we were kind of running into that problem with Ryuki early on, where it's like he's just kind of like a religious monk to the Tega sword, you know?
Yeah, and to comment, like to agree with you on Ninja, like one of the reasons why I stopped watching it when it was airing was because like the characters, like, yeah, they just felt kind of weak, and it just felt like, there was a lot of repetitive episodes, like the Blue Ranger, like every single one of his episodes is the exact same episode.
Yeah.
Like that's to the point where like I think they are doing a joke on that, but like it just got kind of like, all right, come on now. Um, but that's not. I don't know. I haven't seen it in so long that I wouldn't like batten down the hatches on my opinion that it's like the worst Sentai ever made or whatever.
It's
Like,
not.
that's kind of a
It's
common.
just average. It's just average
Yeah,
to me.
that's basically like when you're watching something and you're bored by it, you kind of like become more hyperbolic about it than is
Yeah.
necessary. That's why, like, especially with something like Gachar, that's a lot more divisive. Like, I have my problems with it. I didn't enjoy it by the end, but I'm not gonna act like I didn't enjoy it ever, or that it's not like didn't have like great episodes or wasn't like overall like a solid show.
Yeah.
So
No, yeah. It's a whole thing with like these discussions and
yeah,
shit.
but that being said, GoZyuger, it has some weaker elements, but I am really enjoying it so far. Like, there's
Yeah, and
nothing that's
I
like a
feel like
red
I'm like
flag.
stretching. Like honestly, with Gozutra, it feels like I'm always stretching to critique the show because I am enjoying it. It's just like, but just I feel
Yeah,
like whenever I critique the show, I'm either stretching or it's just like, I wish it could have done something better. And I feel like there's a difference
yeah,
between I wish or this is a legit problem, and
hmm,
I feel like wishing like something could be like, oh, I wish they could have done this instead of this. That's more of like a nitpick than like an actual like critique. Like it's just being like, well, I would have done it this way, but it's like I'm not making the show, so who cares? This is how
yeah,
they made
yeah.
the show.
And then
Uh,
we usually do compare the show to Don Brothers here and there, just because it has some surface level similarities to them, but I do think that it does stand on its own.
yeah,
And I wouldn't 100% say that it's literally Don Brothers 2 to the point where um like that it's like none of the characters in the show can be attached to a Don Brothers character,
yeah,
like
they're
you
very
can't just like
unique.
so that's what I was saying with like, oh, Riku is the best character. You look at Haruka, who is my favorite character in Don Brothers, and they're very different types of characters, and then even like, oh, if you look at her compared to the token girl Sumino from this show, they are also pretty different characters. So it is,
Yeah,
like the comparisons are not meant to be like, what is better than the other, or this is exactly the same or whatever. It's more just like, haha, here's this thing that reminds me of the show that I love. So it's to be a little bit more positive angle on
yeah,
that. But yeah, it was a
it's
good
a
episode. Like this,
yeah, it's a
this is
good
a good two.
episode.
Yeah, it was a good episode. Good two-parter. Definitely made me very emotional. Like, during that whole all this stuff. Like, it reminded me of the stuff with GoZyuger like a few episodes ago, where like, oh, the show actually can kind of like get down to brass tacks and tell like a really emotional story, and take its characters very seriously. So I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like I feel like even the first episode like even did that shit. It just like, it was a lot of setup, so it was like, very
Hmm,
rushed because they had to introduce
hmm.
so many elements. But like no, yeah, I get yeah, I do think like GoZuger on track. I feel like if it continues to build up, like again, we're still in the early game, so but still, I feel like if it keeps up, it will like you get even better for that. I'm already enjoying it, so yeah. But
Awesome.
yeah, I think that's about all we. Is that everything? Do we want to plug our stuff?
Yeah, I guess we can just get to plugging our stuff now. Go
Yeah.
on Twitter or Blue Sky at Wasp Ranger, WAZP Ranger. It's mostly stream of consciousness stuff, but you can learn about podcasts I'm in or videos that I'm doing by following me. I usually post about them. If you want to check out my channel where I post videos, it's only magic. I also post a podcast, Cartoon Buffoons, on there, all cartoon related. If you're interested in that, and then if you want to support me on Patreon, $3 gets you the podcast a week early. It gets you the videos a couple days early. If you only got $1, that's fine. You get Wow Cool Robot, me and my friend Wayne going through every single robot in existence. And then recently I've started doing Horror Hole, which is just me and Cody, friend of the show, talking about horror movies. And that's a couple episodes in. I think the Midsummer episode was just posted. So check that out. But all right, that's me. How about you?
Yeah, I am Buster, and if you want to hear more Sentai talk, go over to my channel. I just released a video on GoZyuger, and I'm planning a ninja video for some time. I don't know when, but like I'm writing it, so it'll happen eventually. Maybe this month, maybe next month, but like minimum end of June. No, maximum end of June. I always mix
Yeah.
up maybe the maximum. But like yeah, so go over to my channel for all sorts of Sentai discussion and other shit. And also just subscribe to this channel, Modular Media, where we do all sorts of funky podcasts like TokuTalkers every Sunday. We do freaking modular components where like me and a bunch of people shoot the shit and find out. And then we do Analytical Fanboys. This week we're doing the 97 Berserk anime because I really wanted to show people
Ooh.
that. So yeah, stay tuned for that discussion at the end of the month. But for now, that's gonna do it for this week of TokuTalkers. We'll see you next week for episode 13 of GoZyuger.